Canada. No doubt our brothers and sisters to the north have made some great contributions to the world, including Bret Hart, maple syrup, moose, meese, politeness, and of course Robin Scherbatsky. And of course poutine, a dish with 3 great ingredients that may sound wrong to mix, but taste oh so right. To the kitchen, eh? Alrighty, when a dish is this simple, you need to make sure that each of the components are done well. So starting with our potatoes, can't make french fries without these potatoes. I'm going with russet because they fry up nicely, but really any mealy kind of potato will do ya. And you can get one of those french fry cutters online, but I'm just gonna cut these by hand today, cutting them into planks one way and then going the other way for these long strips. And there you have it, le french fry. And you can cut these as thin or as thick or as long or short as you want them. I will say the smaller pieces make for great snacking, but the longer pieces make for better poutine in my opinion. So I would try to keep these a little bit on the longer side. They will shrink when we cook them. Before we do cook them, I recommend letting them sit in water just to remove some of that excess starch for at least a half hour to an hour. Afterwards, we'll want to really dry them out because water and oil do not mix well. So I have this wire rack here. I'll get all my potatoes onto this rack, letting the excess moisture drip off. And then I'm going to hit them with some paper towels to make sure I'm really getting rid of all that extra water. Once they are completely dried out, these bad boys are ready for frying. So I will fill up my pot with some vegetable oil. Anything with a high smoking point, canola oil, peanut oil will work for you. You don't want to fill it up too high. Make sure you have great ventilation. Practice safe frying. And you can see here, I'm not using a thermometer. I'm just testing my oil with a french fry just to see how hot it is and if it's ready to go. There's a few methods for this. A lot of people believe in starting really low with your temperature, around 300, just to kind of help cook them through for about 10 minutes or so. And then taking them out, raising up the heat to about 365, 375, and then cooking them through for another 5, 6 minutes, just get them really crispy on a higher temperature. I like to keep it simple. I start with a lower temperature for about 10 minutes and then crank up the heat to about that 365, 375 for another 5 minutes or so. That way they're nice and fluffy in the middle, but they're cooked through and they're nice and super crispy on the outside. And once they are perfectly golden brown, I will grab my trusty spider and get to scooping these out, letting the excess oil drain off, moving these straight onto my wire rack to let them cool and let all of the oil really drain off these very well. And then from there, it's just rinse and repeat. Finishing the next batch, just lower the temperature, let those go for about 10 minutes, crank up the temperature for another 5 minutes, get them nice and crispy. Use your spider to remove them from the pot and get them onto your rack. And while they're still nice and hot, just remove from oil. This is when you have to season them. I'll hit them with a little bit of salt and pepper, but you want to season them while they're still hot so they really soak that all up. But there you go, some excellent french fries, hand cut, homemade. They kind of remind me of that place that has 4 or 6 fellas. Now it is gravy time, and I want to make mine as flavorful as possible, so I'll start with a hot pan, get in a little bit of oil, throw in some onions to sweat those down, invite some garlic to the party because why not, season with salt and pepper, continue to cook this down until they're nice and translucent. I'm going to be straining this, so I'll throw my herbs right into the pan. I have some leftover thyme and a bunch of bay leaves, so I'll throw that right in the middle, saute those down a little bit to really extract all their flavor. Then it's time to throw in our chicken stock. This is about 8 cups of chicken stock, which made a ton of gravy. I had a lot of leftovers, but you could use vegetable broth, beef broth, a combination. You could go straight up water, but obviously more flavor that you put into it, more flavor you're going to get out. And then you just want to bring it up to a gentle simmer for as long as you'd like, just to really kind of develop those flavors. Then it is time to strain and thicken. For the thickening portion, I'm going with a roux, so just equal parts butter and flour. This is a couple fat tablespoons of butter. Once it's melted down, I'll sprinkle in an equal amount of all-purpose flour. And then you're just going to cook this down, get the flour taste out of it, and this is what's going to help thicken our gravy. If you want a nice dark gravy, you can really cook this roux down until it changes colors really slow, really low, but I'm okay with this. So then I'll throw a strainer on top and then pour our stock mixture right into it, and then we're just left with this flavorful strained stock. This is when you want to start whisking on a gentle simmer to really break up that roux into the stock. That's what's going to help thicken our stock into a gravy. If your gravy isn't thickening up the way you like, you can always just make a little bit more roux on the side and slowly stream it into this while whisking. Or you can just take a little bit of cornstarch and water, mix that together, make a slurry, cornstarch and milk, whatever you have, and that will also help thicken up your gravy. As it cools, it will also thicken, but then just give it a taste. I will season with salt and pepper. My gravy is tasting delicious, and it is the perfect consistency that I want, so I will put it to the side for now, keeping it warm. Now for our cheese curds. These things are absolutely delicious. They're basically just cheese that hasn't really aged that long or hasn't been shaped into a bigger block like you're used to seeing, hence these really cool funky shapes. They're kind of soft, closer to like a mozzarella, but then the packed flavor of like a cheddar, so they're kind of the best of both worlds. So now it is time for our marriage of madness. You can just take everything and just throw it in a bowl and eat it just like that. I like to get my fries into a pan, throw some cheese curds on top, and then get these into a broiler or a really hot oven just to slightly melt the cheese curds just a little bit. Then I will get these in the bowl, top them with some fresh curds. That way there's some nice melty pieces and then a little bit firmer pieces. And then it is time for the gravy train to pull in, choo choo. A light drizzle or absolutely smothered, the choice is yours. Can't really go wrong. Everything tastes delicious individually, so it tastes even better together. And there you go, some hot crispy fries. They really just soak up that gravy so perfectly. There's some melted cheese pieces, there's some more firm. They all kind of just blend together so well for all kinds of different bites. I will attempt to hide my savage ways and use a fork, and that is the perfect bite to me, right? You got some crispy french fries, a little bit of the gravy soaked up, and a nice piece of cheese. And then there's other ones like this where you can see the cheese kind of smothers and everything ties together. You get that nice stretchy cheese, and these are almost like more like cheese fries with gravy. That's why I like to melt a little bit and then keep some pieces bigger and whole. But I absolutely love how some fries really soak up and get smothered in the gravy, and then some stay crispier like this with a little bit of cheese on it, a little bit of gravy, but they're still super nice and crispy. It's just a perfect wacky dish that comes together and ties together so well. Thank you, Canada. You gave me a ticket to the gravy train, and I'm gonna ride that son of a gun all the way through.